okay, let's first of all acknowledge the fact that the playing field is not equal, right? And even if you said that all girls and boys should have equal access to education, that doesn't work. Because equality at that time, it's not even equal.
Okay.
Right? Because there's the historic disadvantage that the women and girls face or have faced. That first you kind of need to sort out so that the playing field is equal for them then to say they have equal opportunities and compete.
The motherland, the African man. Long as I'm alive, I'ma make a plan. Strongholds to break, got long walks to take, got no votes to make. We don't bet, we pray. Hey, African man, yeah. The African male iris through the eye of an African male.
No, commend you for that, man.
Yeah, that is.
Actually, speaking about that, about men and not
Being proactive.
not liking to go to get checked.
Yeah.
I, for myself, will try everything first before
To not go to a medical facility.
You know, until your wife just says, "Hey, come on, you need to get checked. You need to get checked." So is that? Would you think that's something that emanates from way back in time as men, or generally? Because for a man to really say, "Okay, I need to see a doctor," I think he would have maybe fallen on the floor like sick and. So
You don't go until you see blood.
Yeah.
So is it to do maybe also with the male nature of let me fight this through, I'll be good, or I mean, with that experience that you had, what would you think is, or is it a lack of knowledge, a lack of exposure to that? You know, to say you just need to be checked, even though you're okay, you do not know what you may be carrying.
Yeah. So if you asked me this question a year ago, I'll probably tell you, you know, it's the gender norms and the social norms that persist in our society, where a man has to be, you know, you need to be stoic, you need to be strong, and sometimes it can be seen as a sense of weakness to seek health service. But now you're asking me this today, and I think there's something we can do about that to use it to the advantage of the population. The resilience that, you know, and the positivity in a man to say, I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
There's something really good about that as human beings we can cultivate better. Because I now believe that first you have to be defeated mentally. In your psychology, there's a lot that happens there. And once you're defeated psychologically, then it starts showing physically.
Your physical health, yeah.
So if we could just say, okay, what is it about men that think, you know, they're going to walk over this and cross over this and get better? And how can we cultivate that for, you know, for the positive side of it?
Okay, you talked about dealing with men and, you know, the culture around, you know, proactivity in terms of, you know, approaching health services and that kind of thing on a very sort of macro scale, you know, at country level, you know, but I want to ask a question in two parts. Number one, looking after Eastern and Southern Africa, 21 countries, what similarities or differences do you see across between the different countries in how men are responsive or, you know, are expected to respond to services, to seeking help? Are there some cultures, some countries that are making more progress than others, or is it just an African problem? African men don't go to the doctor.
We used to go to the doctor. We used to go to the traditional doctor,
Yes.
which is another area that actually I think if I have time on my hands, I'd like to go and study traditional medicine. But that's a story for another day. On your question, there are a lot of similarities across the continent. First of all, and I like how you phrased the question, it's not just about how many men carry themselves, but it's the expectation also outward from women, from society towards men. And I think it is similar across the countries I've been to and I've worked in. There's still that perception that as a man, you need to be strong. You can't show signs of weakness. I mean, how many men freely tap into their emotions, like in public? You rarely see that.
Rare, yeah.
And that's an expectation in most of African countries. And I reflected on this, it as if I kind of anticipated that. Because most of the time when I say I've worked on masculinities, I expect this question. So I reflected on this a little bit. And I think that as human beings, what we shouldn't do is to try and make men become weak. Right?
Interesting, yeah.
So we shouldn't say, society says men should be strong, but it's fine to be weak.
Like it's okay to cry,
Yeah.
it's okay to...
I think as society, we should tell women to be as strong. Right?
Okay.
To be as strong. We should say to a woman, it's okay to be strong.
What does that mean? Women are strong.
Yeah. But in society, they say, men are strong and women are weak. So my point is that even in our gender empowerment programs, we should empower the girl child, empower the woman, right, to reach the level of the CEO of a company, to break the salary ceiling that women shoot for.
Okay.
Right? So that the message isn't that, we need men to tone down. It's how do you work with women to be able to have equal opportunities and equal power in our society as men.
But doesn't that also bring the... it's a double-edged sword.
My goodness, this is a minefield.
Yeah.
It's a minefield because the question is, what are you calling strength, and what are you calling weakness?
Yeah.
Because for a woman, I have a very different perspective. I don't think that equality means women should be encouraged necessarily to pursue the version of success that suits males, for instance. I think that our different makeups predispose us to different versions of success.
Yeah.
So for a woman to be a CEO of a, Fortune 500 company, for instance, might not actually translate to success in real terms.
Yeah.
And there might not be the environmental or, support around her ecosystem to celebrate that as legitimate success. So it can feel like failure.
Yeah.
When on
absolutely.
paper it is success.
I think, and I totally agree with you. So the two concepts that I think we need to reflect on is equality of opportunity and equality of outcome.
Right, exactly.
I think most of the time we focus on equality of outcome and not necessarily equality of opportunity. So for me, it's putting the opportunities there and then men and women choosing not to choose their path rather.
Yeah.
As opposed to the outcome should be equal. You should all look like this. And I totally agree with him. So for what that looks like in reality for me is, okay, let's first of all acknowledge the fact that the playing field is not equal, right? And even if you said that all girls and boys should have equal access to education, that doesn't work. Because equality at that time, it's not even equal.
Okay.
Right? Because there's the historic disadvantage that the women and girls face or have faced. That first you kind of need to sort out so that the playing field is equal for them then to say they have equal opportunities and compete. And that's where now the issue of equity comes in.
Right.
Yeah, because equity is about leveling the playing field.
Yes.
Equality is about treating everyone equally. Equity is about, let's say, if you are here, we raise somebody that's down there, you're at the level, and then we say, now you can compare. So affirmative action is one of approaches towards equity. It's saying, okay, you come from a poor household. And we know that you don't have access to the same textbooks that somebody from a rich household would have.
Yeah.
So how do we help you so that you can have, access to all those tools you need to be able to compete in this market? And once we level the playing field, then we can say there's equality of opportunities.
It's interesting. Because, for me, I think this conversation has taken me to gender roles. Right?
Okay.
Gender roles for men and women, and what fulfills each gender, right? And naturally, for women, they are nurturers, and they want the children. They want to raise the children.
Don't let them hear you.
No,
I was actually gonna interject and say, hey, are they though?
No, naturally. I think with the exposure that I've, how it is when you start podcasts, and there are a lot of successful women, right? Your CEOs, your successful in profession and everything, who are really longing for a family and a husband and a family, and they've now at 40 plus years and focusing on career, now realizing that what was actually important to me was starting up a family, right? And at that age, of course, now it makes it twice as difficult. Right?
I mean, what they will argue is I'm in this position because I am forced to choose.
Yeah. And then
Either I do my career or I have a family. Whereas men don't have to choose. They can have both.
They can have both.
So it goes back to is the playing field level?
Well,
as opposed to
because
natural makeup.
Just the fact, let's say I get into the professional world with a friend of mine. Okay, a woman, female. Just the fact that if they do get pregnant, that has significant impact on their career. Even if, let's say, it was both our child, actually.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. The impact that it will have on her is significant.
Yes.
The 9 months of carrying the pregnancy, the maternity leave takes them away from a number of competition that if companies haven't put in place safeguards, when she comes back to the workplace, and you say, okay, opportunities are leveled, you compete for the same role.
Yeah.
I remained garnering skills, making contacts and networks, and growing my career whilst my partner was at home.
Even the risk of health,
exactly.
Physical
health.
Yeah,
all those things. So the question for me for gender roles, and this is what I say if I'm conducting a training on gender with communities is, first of all, we just need to agree that they are socially constructed. The gender roles.
Yes.
Yes. maybe expand on that.
I agree.
Because when we define gender, it's a socially constructed phenomena about the expectations of men and women.
Yes.
Right? It's different from sex.
Right.
So sex is biological, gender is social.
Right.
And then from that social construction come the social roles that SAR puts in place. And I'll give an example of the taking care of a child. When my wife and I had our first child, we were both starting from zero in terms of, experience. But because of the gender roles, you'd find that it was easy for me to rely on her so much until deliberately I was like, no. This girl hasn't learned this from anywhere. So I need to pull up my socks.
Right.
You get it? It's not like she was born with nappy changing
abilities,
right? So I have to now learn, go on the internet and search, okay, even before pregnancy, how many trimesters are there? What are the periods of pregnancy?
Yeah.
What impact does that have on person's mood and hormones and so on?
Yeah.
How many times should the baby feed? How big is the tummy of a baby and all that? So you start learning, and then you realize that because the gender roles are socially constructed,
Right.
it's easy for you to share those roles in the home.
I think that it is deeper than that, though. For instance, what you've just described, you taking on these roles and calling yourself to account, as the father of the child, of course, is a gender roles issue. But what Tino shared earlier was talking about the predispositions of male versus female, just at a chromosome level. The fact that she carried this individual and it formed in her body, and they shared meals for 9 months and whatever.
There's an attachment.
Exactly. They are immune systems, are working together, and there's a maternal bond that cannot be equated to a paternal bond.
Yeah.
No matter how we apply ourselves as fathers, we are external to this mechanism, right?
Yeah.
So the way that motherhood then manifests in the parenting equation can never be equal to fatherhood, right?
Yeah.
And the attachment between a mother and a child is at a nurturing level from day one. You cannot nurture a fetus when it is in its mother's womb, right? So your version of nurturing is not as inherent as hers.
It's not natural.
Oh, it's different.
Yeah.
Oh, it's different.
It's different, but also it is not as inherent. It cannot be. It's like that. It's like Bane says in The Dark Knight. He says, I was born in the darkness. You really embraced it.
I think I hear where you're coming from, and I think that so the mistake that we make obviously is the comparison effect of does my fatherhood equate to her motherhood, and I think that point of departure is a little problematic. What we are seeing, and the example you've given, is that where now sex roles and gender roles intersect.
Right.
Because breastfeeding is a sex role, being pregnant and carrying the baby is a sex role.
Right.
When that then enables the mother to be more nurturing even outside the pregnancy, then we're seeing the intersection of her sex role moving into a gender role.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that there are, and most of the gender, in fact, any gender role, the moment we say it's a gender role, it is socially constructed, and it's not necessarily as a result of the sex differences.
Okay.
The importance of having that point of departure then, for both men and women, it comes up in future. It comes up in future when you are deciding, who applies for this job, okay? And if a woman then is forced to turn down a job offer because she's nurturing, because she's nurturing, because she's the one who carried the baby, then it becomes a problem.
But for me, it comes back to what I was saying, that what fulfills you? What fulfills you as a man, and what fulfills you as a woman?
As a woman.
Because the same, if a woman is to take that opportunity and you as the man say, I'll stay and take care of the kids. As a man, are you going to be fulfilled with that?
Are you?
I think it depends on who this man is. Because if we take away social expectation
Yeah.
from this equation,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you will find that there is a larger percentage of men who would be very happy with that picture, who
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to be on the grind out there,
In harm's way.
who are not suited or built for the corporate world or for entrepreneurship and that kind of thing. I've met a few men, who, because of my socialization, I would refer to as docile, right? Who would be very happy with a very very simple,
Simplistic.
home-based existence. They are happy to just stay at home. And I've met women equally who are not as attuned to that nurturing
Yeah.
aspect of femininity, who do want to be hitting butts with the system and, fighting for change in the workplace and that kind of thing and going up that ladder, who don't actually do well with children. Like, you can't even leave your kids with them.
It's a disaster.
They don't like kids and kids don't like them type thing, so...
Yeah. So it's really, it depends. I think it's a more of a personality issue than a sex difference issue. I think, just like you've explained, I mean, there are men that don't fit into the social category of what a man should look like, and the same for women, right? So, what we're trying to get people to really appreciate is that there are these boxes, social boxes that we have put, and these boxes have been put there socially, right? And we need to start sort of deconstructing, because the effects that those have on physical health and on relationships is incredible.
Mental health, yeah.
Mental health, right? Just to fit in a particular box. And the expectations you have of men and women. So, yeah, will I be fulfilled? And I've never been a stay-at-home dad. And maybe because I didn't have the opportunity growing up to just wait for things to, get done. I had to go out there. I've never, even when I was in undergrad, I've never done full-time study in that sense. So I would be studying and hustling, right?
Right.
Extra gig here, gig there. Masters the same, PhD the same. So I'm not sure how it would look like to me if one time I said, okay, let's switch, and I stay at home and take care of the family. I know there's a lot of learning I would have to do. Would I be fulfilled? I don't know. As myself, as Remmy.
I mean, think about Scandinavian societies, for instance.
Yeah.
You go to Sweden, you'll find a larger percentage of stay-at-home dads. There's facilities that are put in place now in the workplace, paternity leave, etc., etc. And you find that there's a high degree of fulfillment in those men, in playing those roles, right?
Yeah.
And so I agree with Remmy to say gender roles are a social construct.
Yeah.
And when it comes right down to it, when you take away that social pressure,
Expectations,
you might actually find that gender roles play a subservient sort of role to who we are as personalities, right? So if we allow the woman in this example and the man in the example to just be themselves without the pressure of what society expects of them, you might find that the equation shifts a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, but I guess from an African perspective, it's something probably that is still far-fetched for us. Because I think from our culture and background and how we've known the social construct to be, I think it's probably something that is still
Yeah, but I think the question also, Tino, is how much of that, right, in our cultural traditional settings, as a result of the differences between men and women, as opposed to structural conditions. So, for instance, if I go back to my great grandparents, when the form of employment was, in the field, tilling the soil and going hunting and so on, you saw a lot of men doing that and women staying at home to do, taking care of the
household,
home
the
and so on.
kids, yeah.
And I guess even policies now that are trying to shift some of these are aiming at the structural issues. Okay, so what is that one thing that is causing men not to be active parents in the home and, play the role of taking off? Okay, it's paternity leave. Okay, you get 3 days paternity leave in most of the countries.
Right.
So let's address that. So you find in Scandinavia, you have equal leave between the
mother and the father.
child.
Yeah.
Then it is sort of encourages the men because now they know that we can both go on leave to take care of the child, and then the contributions obviously also that the government puts in when you both take paternity and maternity leave. So then your household doesn't suffer in terms of income. So it kind of encourages those now relationship decisions that you can make at a household level. And, working at the UN, I see a lot of colleagues who are UN diplomats who are female, and their husbands or male partners are the ones that are dependent spouses with them. And they do more, obviously, of the school runs, child care, and so on. And they look fulfilled, if you ask me.
Yeah, I guess it comes back to the dating phase, man. You have to be very certain of what you want.
Yeah.
And, to say this is the kind of person
sign
I
And
am.
that's very important because one of the things that we do in dating pre-marriage is to have a conversation, with the couple of what are their expectations.
This is pre-marriage is this work or?
Professionally.
Oh, professionally.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I didn't mention.
Are you in counseling as well?
I'm into therapy.
You into?
Therapy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is this therapy is it couples therapy? Is it also extended?
So in Zambia,
Yes.
before I moved here, I used to do a lot of therapy, and I did psychology and all that. And I can practice in Zambia, but not here.
Oh, I see.
Because I'm not licensed here.
Yeah.
But in Zambia, I set up a facility for mental health. It's called Psych Health.
Nice.
And it's really to provide different of psychological services. And I have professional, psychologists working in the team.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is why I'm drawing some of these lessons. And one of the conversations in the relationship is your expectations in terms of roles, and to be as pedantic as possible.
Yeah.
I expect that you'll be collecting the trash.
To be at that level.
At that level, at that granular level, and be deliberate about it. So my wife and I, we had this, and funny enough, this is an interesting one. My wife hates laundry. Like she hates laundry. She hates it. Ironing is the worst, at the scale.
I think for every woman, ironing is an issue.
I hate laundry. She loves to cook, but not very much. She's not passionate about cooking. She loves cleaning.
All right.
I love doing the dishes.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. It's therapeutic for you.
Yeah, because when I was younger and living from household to household, story for another day.
Right.
Okay. You would be forced, like even in my mother's house, we didn't have detergent to use for dishes. So we would use things like maize meal, like, you know.
Right. Soil and
Ash.
100%.
And I hated it. I hated the chores. I hated the greasy plates, which just don't get clean because we don't have. Then I discovered detergent, you know, dishwasher.
Made it so much easier.
It was a game changer. It was a game changer. You won't believe it. So now I just I love
watching
like you guys
addicted to
You
detergent.
don't know.
It's a detergent addiction.
Even when we go out to eat at a different household, I'm like, can I help with it? Like, no, we've got a dishwasher. But I think the point really is
I think you should go for counseling at Psych Help.
detergent counseling. But I think that it's really important to really know the expectations. Okay. And not just on the roles, how you deal with finances.
Yeah.
How you gonna go for, in other countries they have joint accounts. We don't have here in South Africa. Right? But, agreeing how you're going to manage resources. If one earns more than the other, or if there's only one income, how are you gonna manage it? How are you gonna manage family and expectations from families? Because where we come from,
the
black tax is an issue. How you gonna manage fights? To the detail, things you can't say in a fight. There are things that my wife and I can't say in a fight, no matter what, no matter how pissed we are.
Tricks, some of them are triggers.
Yeah, and we discuss them. Rules of engagement. You know, how to argue, how to who can you talk to if you can't agree?
Right.
Because that's also another thing that breaks relationships down.
Yeah.
So I come to Oscar and I tell Oscar the things that I'm going through with my wife, but my wife doesn't like Oscar. That is gonna
cause issues.
Yeah.
100%. It's very interesting how things then depend on each other. To the current issues that emanate. Now,
man,
and you touched mental health as well. I think with your experience, what do men generally struggle with when it comes to mental health issues? What are the common cases or causes as well?
Yeah,
we did have an episode earlier in our podcast that covered mental health. And we went through causes. And potential solutions thereof to cope, And I would like to hear from your perspective, like from your experience, what did you normally come across when it came to men as mental health issues and causes, etc.
I think that and I was speaking the case of Zambia because I'm more in touch with the context.
And this is an African podcast.
I think we're seeing depression a lot in men. Okay. And because we understand that depression is caused by multiple factors, both biological and social factors. So impact on the economy can come down to affect you as a person, as a man. You've lost your job, and so on. So we're seeing sort of a spike in men coming to seek help for depression. Relationships problems are also some of the major things that we're seeing, and that obviously affects a lot of things, erectile dysfunction and sexual performance and all that. But what I'm very happy about is that Africans are beginning to seek help. Okay. When I was setting up Psych Health in 2014, friends were telling me this is a white man thing.
Black people will not come.
Black people won't come to therapy. Black people just tell each other to be strong and then but you'll be very surprised that there are so many Zambians who are coming to mental health, to seek mental health services. And for me, my vision, if you ask me, even when I was setting up the outfit, is what would I like to see? Yes. I would like to see families come together and saying, Remy needs help. Let's put monies
Something
together
together, yes.
to take Remy for rehab.
Right.
Take Remy and pay for his therapy. If we can reach that stage as Africans to see the importance of mental health, for me, I think I would have achieved, what we're trying to do. The way that we respect physical health.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
People put money together to send people to India or to South Africa for surgery and so on.
Yeah.
Because they value physical health. And that is where we trying to.
I think it's because of how tangible it is.
Yeah,
like I
that you
was
can
saying,
see it.
We don't go until there's blood or the broken limb or something.
Yeah, true.
But going back to his question, when we talk about the causes of male, you just said depression, and like the thing with depression and its trickle down effect and how it compounds into other parts of life. So a man who was perfectly fine in terms of his sexual reproductive health can start to misfire because his money is not right.
Yeah,
right. And so because he's misfiring sexually, there's now a relational issue.
Yeah, yes,
with his
yes, true. Actually.
woman and etc. etc. etc.
Yeah.
And there's a whole trickle down effect. But I find that the issue of shrinking economies and the pressure that economies are placing on the family unit, and not even just family units, but on individuals. Because I'm single and I'm feeling it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I think I feel it more even because I have no one to lean on and that kind of thing. But do you think that a country like, you just spoke from the Zambian perspective, but do you think that it might be worse for men in countries like South Africa, where affirmative action has had more mileage in a place like South Africa, to the point where, from my own observation, the average South African woman is starting to outpace the average South African man in terms of financial earning capacity. Like, if you took two candidates, like you said, right now in this current hiring ecosystem, same qualifications, one male, one female, chances are, because of affirmative action, the job goes to the woman. Right? Not because she is more suited to the role, but there's a quota to fill.
I hear.
What that does is it is leaving more South African men either unemployed or underemployed, right? And it goes back to the gender stereotypes or expectations where the man still must be the provider.
Indoor, the must.
Regardless of this new imbalance. So the pressure is compounded on this guy.
Yeah.
He's not lazy.
Yeah.
But now he is seen as lazy.
Yeah.
Because his peers, his female peers, are even doing better than him. And I feel like it affects both parties negatively at the end of the day. You have a population of men who feel disenfranchised, who feel disempowered, who feel emasculated. And then you have a population of women who are now financially empowered, but are struggling relationally.
100%.
And so no one wins. So I would like to know, from your own observation, do you feel that this equity is a worthwhile cause to pursue? Number one. Number two, do you feel that the custodians of these systems know what they're doing? Because it's people who are setting up these systems that populations then, sort
Take
of
up.
have to consume.
Yeah.
Someone came up with BEE.
Yeah.
Someone came up with, all these mechanisms. But what are their agendas.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, I have theories, some of which, you know, have a colonial aspect to it and that kind of thing. But I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I'd like to have this conversation more, and especially on the theories. I think, let me just state prestissimo that, look, I acknowledge and appreciate the fact that women have been disfranchised, and that still are, for many, many years, if not decades and centuries. And that's the wrong that the system is trying to correct, right? Because we know where we're coming from historically. The issue of South Africa is so complex. In fact, South Africa is one of the most complex settings to talk about affirmative action, because it's not just gender, it's also race, and how that interplays. I do think that equity and affirmative action is important and necessary. But like we said from the beginning of the conversation, it's a means to an end, and it shouldn't be an end in itself.
All right.
Whether or not our policymakers know that end, they know that now we've reached a place where, okay, the playing field is leveled. I'm not sure. But South Africa continues to battle the problem of inequalities. And so when you are starting to sort of give context to your question, and I was thinking, it's not necessarily the fact that women are being treated differently and given opportunities, that the pressure is increasing on the men and affecting them and their mental health. But significantly, the inequality. You live in a country that is, you know, one of the most, in fact, the biggest economy, isn't it, on the continent?
It is.
Biggest economy on the continent, but you have 58% unemployment, youth unemployment, right? So you are an upper middle income country, but at the same time, you have the poorest, one of the poorest populations on the continent. So that also has an effect. So it's not just that, oh, now there are many opportunities going to women as a South African man that's putting pressure on me. It's also that I'm seeing other men getting more opportunities than we do in the workplace, in the education system, and so on. And that's a lot of pressure. Do they know do the policymakers know what they're doing? I don't know. I hope they do.
I think they don't.
I hope they do. But the question for me, the problem or the threat that affirmative action has is that it has to be a whole package, right? So we can't, on one hand, say that women should have more opportunities, and then on the other hand, still expect some of the harmful gender roles to continue.
Right.
So the fact that, you know, you expect a man to provide, even if a man has no means, you need to address that as well, as you are talking about affirmative action. And at societal level, we haven't reached that. The point where a man can comfortably be without income and rely on the income of a woman. No, we haven't on both ends.
Yeah, no.
We still have relationships where, you know, your money is our money, my money is my money, right? Yeah. And so even within the education system, with the young people, if we are going to promote equality and equal treatment someday, we should start as early as that to say, you know, if we open up opportunities for everyone, some of these roles can be done by anyone. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, but we haven't done that. And so you continue to see that panning out in families and in relationships and so on.
It's interesting. And then you have other complexities, I think, where you might go in a relationship with a certain framework, right? Then, as said, that sometimes people do change. You know, you might go in saying, "I'm comfortable being the one who stays at home," and I think we've seen that.
Yeah.
We've got. I'm sure we've got family and relatives or friends who've had that where maybe a woman says, "I want to be a stay-at-home wife." First 5-10 years, then the fulfillment. She desires now to say, "I want a career. I want to do this and I want to do that." Then at times your spouse might accept it and say, "Yeah, no, go ahead." But there are some who are adamant to say, "You know what? When we got together,
this is
we agreed on this." So
Changing the script.
And it's more I think from a male perspective to understand that people change with time. Needs change with time, and it's something we have to be graceful to acknowledge and accept.
And also, like, you're a fan of the gender roles conversation, right? But I actually, I must admit, I don't know where I stand with this gender roles thing, because it is so layered, like, it is so complex. It has to boil down to individual couples. Because work, the definition of work, I mean, I think the starting point to the whole conversation of roles is what are the roles for, right?
Yeah.
They are to fulfill specific functions. Yeah. They are work related, right? Whether it's the work of building a home, the work of bringing income, of providing food, the work of looking after relatives, whatever. There is a task at hand.
Yeah.
And the roles sort of come in to sort of,
to help meet,
fulfill that task. Now, the specific issue of work in terms of working to generate income is difficult because work has changed.
Yeah.
He gave an example earlier to say there was a time when work meant tilling the land, hunting, gathering.
Yeah.
And this is the sort of the roots of the African reality. And African societies are holding on to gender roles that were formed back then when we were hunters and gatherers.
Yeah.
But the work that we do today is not hunting and gathering.
Yeah.
So the roles have to change accordingly. So, for instance, men and women are, these are tricky waters. Trying to pick my words. Men and women are built differently physiologically.
Yeah.
We are more suited to physical exertion, right? I can chop wood more efficiently. I can chop more wood quicker, better than the average female, right? Simply because I am an active, healthy man, right?
Yeah.
Now, should that relegate me to wood chopping, and relegate them to less physically strenuous roles? If you're judging it at that level, yes, right? But work has changed. It is now mostly mental.
Yeah.
Accounting has very little to do with your muscular tone.
100%.
Law, the practice of medicine or whatever, is more psychological work.
Yeah.
And psychologically, you can't say there are huge differences between men and women in terms of brain power or capacity, right? So by all means, yes. On that note, let's pursue equity, equality of opportunity. Now, when you bring it back to the African home, though, right? We have to sort of find a way of divorcing ourselves from being defined by work. And when I say work, I'm talking the work of career and seeking money and etc. Because once we fail to do that, we have then this intersection of my wife is the CEO where she works,
Yeah.
And I am a messenger where I work. But in the home, she must submit to me.
Yeah.
Whether or not she is more organized, financially superior, organizationally superior, etc., etc. She has a higher IQ.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
She must submit herself to me. Yeah. And those are the problems.
And it becomes biblical.
That people are facing.
Then the challenge, because you raised a challenge earlier that the economy is putting pressure on the household.
Yeah.
So how do we then divorce, work from the household? It's very difficult because
it's impossible.
I mean, even in the beginning of time, I think marriages were about economics.
Yes.
This family and this family come say, okay, let's strengthen our bonds because it gives us liberty. But the question of changing the script, and there's a very, very simple tool that my wife and I use.
Okay.
And that is, we don't know each other. We don't know each other.
You don't fully know someone.
We don't fully know each other.
Yeah.
So I think when we got married, we probably were around 9-ish%
of knowing each other.
of knowing each other.
I think that's a good percentage.
And we've done that deliberately. We've done that deliberately such that when you see something in your partner, instead of saying you've changed, what do you say?
I've learned.
I've learned something.
I didn't know that.
Exactly. So I mean, it's really people change. I mean, human beings are made to change their minds.
Right.
And people change, and couples need to be really open to the fact that you can change. But then how do you communicate those changes and what impact do they have on the other person and on the relationship that you share? And I think that's a conversation we never have enough.
The motherland, the African man. Long as I'm alive, I'ma make a plan. Strongholds to break, got long walks to take, got no votes to make. We don't bet, we pray. Hey, African man, yeah. The African male iris through the eye.